Nature of the objection.
Your Honor, she was about to testify that she had heard about the roadside shooting. The state has not gone into the roadside shooting yet. Your Honor's not ruled on whether that's admissible or not. We object to under 403 as to being admissible, and substantively that is the objection. Evidence of the roadside shooting. It just opens up a whole new avenue of issues. Secondly, what she knows thus far would be hearsay, which is a technical objection, but certainly we object to any evidence of the roadside shooting.
Your Honor, at this point, of course, this is responsive to a question that was raised on cross-examination by Mr. Griffin, in which he testified something happened in September. So for that reason, just to begin with, I believe that door is opened as to her to explain what it was that changed at that period in time, which was the nature of my question to her. Additionally, I think if we look beyond that, there is a connection, if we want to talk and have in-camera hearing about her answer and about 403 and 404, there is a logical connection between what happened in the roadside shooting and what happened on June 7th, 2021. And that connection is, of course, that the evidence will show that as the temperature increases, as there's a confrontation for Alec Murdaugh, then things like this happen. And that's what happened on September. But as it relates to this specific witness, this was an answer that came up during the defense cross, and it's fair to explore with this witness now what changed in September, which she's already testified to from a defense question.
And what was the question that prompted the response that you now indicate opens the door for this? Yes.
So in that particular question and in her response, he asked her, and he had been, of course, engaging in great detail about the family relationship and that sort of thing, and put up a picture and all the rest of it, and asked her about her assessment at that particular time, and she went in and started to explain that, and he was specifically asking about Alec being concerned about clearing Paul's name in the boat case, and then she explained further that, and he asked her if that was any big deal, and then she went on to explain her answer, and that's when she talked about how everything changed in September, and that was what I was exploring, what happened in September, which has been testimony before this jury, and I think now fair game for them to understand what happened in September.
All right. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, that was not the question.
What was the question? That was my question to Mr. Waters, and he's explained a whole lot. I don't know if he responded to my question. Maybe you will. What was the question that you posed that generated the response about her concern and her concerns changing?
The question that I asked related to her, I said, you testified previously that you didn't believe Alec was concerned about finding out who did this, or more concerned about clearing Paul's name, and then she says, well, it seemed odd he wasn't concerned about finding out who did this, and I said, why do you think he was not concerned? And then she goes into testifying, well, initially we thought it was the boating accident, and then after September, we thought perhaps it's something completely different. And I mean, I was exploring her testimony on direct, and she offered up the issue of the roadside shooting. So I didn't ask anything about the roadside shooting, Your Honor. I was asking her why she thought Alec was not trying to, what was the basis of her belief that Alec wasn't trying to find out who did this?
All right, Mr. Waters.
And I apologize if I wasn't more clear. I don't remember the specific question, but what I do.
We have court reporters. We'll have Ms. Harris, if you'll go back a bit to Mr. Griffin and his questioning of Ms. Proctor. Solely consumed about the, I don't know how far that was, Maggie being consumed about the boating accident. And if it's not too far back from there on up to where you are now. And if you need a break, we can take one for you to locate it.
I'm looking for the question.
All right.
You're not critical about Alex wanting to clear Paul's name.
You need to be loud enough for me to hear you at least. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, yes, sir. Okay. You're not critical about Alex wanting to clear Paul's name. After he was murdered, are you? I am not critical about that at all. I think that was his way of honoring Paul after he was gone. I just thought his priority should have been focusing on finding out who killed Maggie and Paul. And how do you know that wasn't a priority? We never talked about it. We never talked about finding the person who could have done it. It was just odd. And we were sort of living in fear because we thought this horrible person was out there and we didn't. We were mostly afraid for Alex and Buster. We didn't know the motive behind the killings. We thought it was probably had something to do with the boat case, right? And we thought that up until September. All right. And then things started to change a little bit. Were you aware that Alex started carrying a gun?
All right, Mr. Waters.
Your Honor, again, these were in direct responses to his question as he was exploring her statement about his concern on the boat case. And in fact, the reference to September was actually in response to a follow-up question that the defense continued down that line of questioning. That answer has now come out, and I think that the witness, again, is entitled and is fair game at this point before.
Testify as to what changed in September?
What she meant by that. Yes, sir, what she meant by that.
And what changed in September?
Do you want me to talk to them?
Yes, ma'am.
So we received a phone call from a friend of ours who said he was so sorry to hear about my brother-in-law. And the call came in to my husband, Bart, and Bart said, "What are you talking about? We don't know anything." And he said, "Well, your brother-in-law's been shot." And we literally stopped the car, pulled over on the side of the road, and it was just the worst feeling in the world because I thought whoever had killed Maggie and Paul had now shot Alec, and I was horrified that Buster was next. So we made a phone call to Buster, and Buster said his dad had been shot, but that he was okay. He was on his way or in the hospital at that time, I can't remember. And then at some point, and I'm not sure, I think I was in shock. At some point, we spoke with Jim Griffin that day, and he told us that yes, Alec had been shot, that he had been fired from the law firm because he had been caught stealing money.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Again, that's her explanation. and I believe that's fair game in this particular instance to this particular witness's testimony that had come out on cross-examination. And I probably would have one follow-up. Additionally, I should mention as well, I think there's two other matters that probably we should explore while the jury's out, in fairness to the other side and in court, that I wanted to inquire that were in reference to cross-examination. Those are different issues. I was going
into them. Tell me what they are. So.
Sure. There were obviously extensive cross-examination about the family relationship, and there's been extensive evidence offered by the defense on cross about the family relationship. And there were two questions I was going to ask her about fidelity concerns, and also the Maggie and the family wrestling with opioid abuse and pill usage by the defendant. Both of those have been issues that Maggie had wrestled with and had expressed to her.
All right, Mr. Griffin.
Well, as to the, I don't know if you want me to address the roadside shooting, but that certainly, I mean, that opens up Pandora's box of 404B. They want to introduce the roadside shooting as motive. How can you have motive after the fact? And so it's not admissible. It should not be admissible under 403. But just what she says is not that harmful, but they're not going to stop there, Your Honor. And I did not open the door. I said,
You're probing her about Alex's fears. Doesn't Alex, were you aware that he started carrying a gun? Well, he always carries a gun in his car. No, but then he started carrying it in his pockets. So you're having her, cross-examining her to suggest that Alex was living in fear, as evidenced by the fact that he continued or started carrying a gun, not in his vehicle, but on his person. And she, in her response, says, well, I never, didn't appear to me that he was living in fear. I didn't know anything about that and responding to you until in September when this occurred for whatever reason. Now, with the truth of what occurred, she's not testifying as an investigator. She said she heard he'd been shot. And that gave her, changed her reason for concern in some way. Whatever that might be, I don't know. Did you still have a reason for concern? Or you, about Alex's safety, or did it, was it changed? Was it altered?
That day, and for some time after that, we were very concerned for the family. We felt like someone was after them, but then we started finding out about other things that had been going on in Alex's life. And
this is in part based on your conversation with Mr. Griffin?
This is everything that has come out since then.
Did you say that you had a conversation with Mr. Griffin?
That day that we found out that Alec had been shot, we did have a conversation with Mr. Griffin, and he's the one.
Mr. Griffin told you that he'd been fired and that he'd been caught stealing money.
Correct.
that's just hearsay.
Well,
Absolutely hearsay.
what kind of quandary does that put you in? You're going to be a witness as well?
Well, that's a hearsay statement, Your Honor. Without a doubt, it's classic hearsay.
Well, the basis for her fear or not having fear, which is something you, or fear or believing that Alex was in fear, that's something that you were probing. Aside from that issue, how about the family relationship issue, fidelity, opioid abuse, concerns?
Your Honor, with regard to fidelity, I mean, we can hear what she says about it, but the evidence, as I understand it, is 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was more than 10 years ago. There was some issue about someone that Alec had known in college reaching out to him. Maggie got angry about that. They had a
Reaching out to him 15 years ago or recently?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that Maggie got angry about it, contacted the woman's husband, who says, it's not true. I know who she's seeing because I have a private eye on her. That led to a divorce.
You're now referring to a 15-year-old conversation.
Yes. And then the opioid stuff, Your Honor, is, I'm not sure what information she's going to share about that, frankly.
Well, you had one earlier witness read a letter about him being in rehab
That they introduced, yes, sir.
that you published.
Well, it was already in evidence, Your Honor.
All right.
Over objection. So,
Go ahead, Mr. Waters.
So on both of those issues, first of all, with the first.
By the way, you can step down for a break. Don't discuss your case. You're fine? Okay, good. All right.
With the issue of the first matter, I think it's certainly a fair question to say, did Maggie ever express to you any concerns? Were there ever any concerns and issues with the defendant's fidelity? I think that's clearly in response to the extensive evidence that's been offered by the defense.
You said, has she ever, such as 15 years ago?
Well, I think that my follow-up question would be, was that something that remained in Maggie's mind over the years up until...
And she would know that.
I think that if I asked her that question, she could express an answer to that. Yes, sir.
No? What is the answer to that?
It was an affair that happened, or Maggie thought it was an affair that happened many years ago. They were able to resolve the issues, but Maggie still brought it up.
As recently as when?
A year ago. She did not think anything was going on. It still bothered her.
All right.
May I ask a follow-up, Your Honor?
Yes.
During when that event occurred, did she make Alec leave the household for a period of time?
She did.
Frame when this happened. I mean,
I understand. 15 years ago or?
How long ago was that?
It was a very long time ago. I'm not sure.
All right.
A very long time ago.
I think, again, I'm not trying to make it bigger than it is, but I think given the issues that have been squarely in front of the jury, the state's entitled, at least in a limited fashion, to offer this some testimony in this regard that that everything was not perfect, as the defense has repeatedly elicited. And so on that particular issue, I only propose a limited question that had Maggie ever had any concerns about fidelity, and had those concerns continued to bother her, and that would be the extent of my proposed examination of her on that issue.
All right. Anything else?
it's 2007 is our understanding. 2007, 15 years ago.
Well, yeah, 2007 was 15 years ago, yeah.
And that's when it occurred.
Well, that's been established. Give me something new,
Well,
other than repeating 15 years ago.
it's not admissible under 403. Unfair prejudice outweighs the probative value of this. Whether it still bothered her, I mean, she testified that they weren't without their problems like all married couples, but they had a good marriage. I mean, it's been addressed, and it's highly inflammatory.
That's why your questions have to not lead into things that might be inflammatory. We're going to be in recess for about 15 minutes. The witness can testify as to her concern as to what occurred on September 7th that changed her concern about Alex living in fear. She cannot testify as to, on the fidelity issue, because that's too remote in time and would tend to confuse the jury. She can testify that she discovered that he'd been fired and that and that he had a drug problem.
Your Honor, depending on how the testimony goes, we would have hearsay objections if she's testifying as to what someone told her.
She's not testifying as to the truth of it. She's responding to why her concerns were changed based on, in part, of her conversations with you.
No, I understand
As an
that.
agent for Mr. Murdaugh.
No, I understand that. The point I just stood to address is the family wrestling with opioid and pill use by the defendant. That is hearsay. If that's how she knows.
You heard he had a drug problem. I mean, if you want to talk about specifically, I don't know to what degree she discovered his drug problem, opioid addiction, or whatever it is, but it's already in evidence anyway.
No, I understand. I'm just advising the court that I will be making hearsay objections if that's
Yes,
she's
I
testifying
understand.
about hearsay.
Anything else before the jury comes?
Nothing from the state this time, Your Honor.
All right, bring the jury. The objection is overruled. You may continue.
May it please the court, Your Honor. Ms. Proctor, when we left on the break, I was asking you what happened in September that caused you to change your assessment. Can you describe that to the jury, please?
On September 4th, we were headed to a football game, and my husband Bart received a phone call from a friend saying he was so sorry to hear about what had happened to my brother-in-law. And we had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, well, we've heard, he told us he had been shot. So we pulled over on the side of the road. We were all in hysterics. We called Buster, and Buster said yes, that his dad had been shot, that he was being airlifted to the hospital, that they thought hoped he was going to be okay. So we wanted more information, so we called Jim Griffin, and he told us that Alec had been shot in the head and that he had been fired from his law firm for stealing.
What was your concern when you heard that he had been shot?
Initially, I thought he might be dead. I had just lost 2 of the family members, and I felt like they were being targeted at that point. I felt like the family was being targeted.
Subsequent to that, did your concern that the family was being targeted, did that change as well?
Over the course of a few weeks, we were still on high alert, worried for Buster, but at that point, information started coming out about some things that Alec had done financially that we had no idea about.
And that changed your assessment about what you heard about him being shot as well, is that correct? Can you answer out loud?
The shooting, that was an event in itself. The roadside shooting.
You just stated that the shooting itself, the roadside shooting, was an event in itself. Did other information come to your attention that changed your assessment about the roadside shooting at a later time?
Yes.
And changed that initial concern that Alec was somehow being targeted?
Yes.
Did Maggie have a nickname for Paul?
As little, detective.
Little detective? Mm-hmm. And what did that mean?
She felt like that he was always looking to make sure his dad was behaving.
And what specifically was the concern?
Pills, prescription pain pills.
And had Maggie expressed to you concern over time about the defendant's pill usage?
Yes.
How long had that been going on?
I am not sure, but I think it had been going on for some time.
And did that concern continue up until recent times as we moved to their Maggie and Paul's murder?
Yes.
And what did specifically Little Detective mean as it related to the pills?
If there were pills in the house that his dad was taking that he wasn't supposed to, Paul was determined that he would find them.
And did that happen on occasions?
I think so, yes.
Hold on for me 1 second. What specifically changed your perception of the Roadside shooting after your initial concern?
The story that was initially told about what happened came to not be true.
The story told by who? By
Alec?
Alec? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Anything further? Thank you. You may step down.